It's D-U-E-U tell. I see you by this point, you're reading my mind. It's time for football. We about to keep this thing moving. I'm about it, you're with it, let's do it. We gon' make this thing official, you heard me? If you're the best, then let's prove it. The goal is set to have a team become a unit, man. We about to keep this thing moving. I'm about it, you're with it, let's do it. We gon' make this thing official, you heard me? If you're the best, then let's prove it. The goal is set to have a team become a unit, yeah.
Welcome to Football Game Plan's NFL All 32 show. I am Emery Hunt, the czar of the playbook, and today we are talking the New England Patriots. It's all about the Patriots in this episode, in this edition of NFL All 32, as we are starting to preview the upcoming 2021 NFL season. We'll talk about the training camp tidbits that you want to keep an eye on as you watch throughout the summer. We'll also talk about reasons for optimism and cause for concern with the Patriots, and we will break down both sides of the football and take a look at their positional rankings. But first, let's take a look at some of the key storylines heading into the Patriots season as we go into our 4-minute offense. Was the 2020 season an aberration or just a reality of the New England Patriots post-Tom Brady? I'm willing to lean on the former, and although 2020 was definitely uncharacteristic of the Patriot way, as New England was ranked 27th on offense, 15th on defense, they couldn't throw the football, and they couldn't stop the run. And all of that led up to them missing the playoffs and posting their first losing season in 2 decades. Of course, there were a litany of reasons why that was, but the main goal for head coach Bill Belichick is to make sure that 2020 doesn't happen again in 2021. And that leads right into the second point perfectly. The Patriots went on an uncharacteristic spending spree in free agency in an attempt to avoid a repeat performance of last year. They just didn't sign a bunch of reserves. They went out and got themselves some dudes. Outside linebacker Matt Judon, tight ends Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry, along with former Patriot and Kyle Van Noy, amongst others. They joined the squad this year, and the old saying goes, you put your money where your mouth is. Well, the Patriots definitely did that this past offseason, showing you how serious they were about being better in 2021. And one of the major free agent acquisitions was, in fact, the familiar face. New England brought back Cam Newton for another run at it this season. We all saw how strong Cam started the 2020 campaign, and then COVID hit, and he wasn't the same after that. Plus, everything around him wasn't the best setup, to put it nicely. Now he's back, healthy, and the team has stockpiled some offensive weaponry around him, giving him a true chance to show that he's still Killer Cam and not just plain old Cameron. However, there was another addition to the quarterback room this year in the form of first-round pick Mac Jones out of Alabama. Now, there are 2 ways to look at this. 1, the Patriots realized how screwed they were when Newton went down with COVID, and 2, if Newton's struggles were more so skill-related and not COVID-related, then they have a guy in Mac Jones they believe can step in and be their future signal caller. The last time New England took a quarterback in the first round was 1993, and it was Drew Bledsoe. We'll see over time if Jones can be at least that for this team, but at worst, he gives them a very solid QB2 on the roster. Considering how ineffective Cam Newton was after COVID, you gotta give him some credit for helping keep this team afloat and in the thick of the playoff hunt until they lost that game to Buffalo. While the focus will be on the 8 touchdowns and 10 interceptions he threw on the season, justifiably so, but Newton proved to be a terror on the ground, finishing with 12 rushing touchdowns. That shows you that part of his game is still intact, and when you toss in both health and continuity in the scheme and better talent around him, one should expect him to start the 2021 season like he did in 2020. And Mac Jones reminds me a lot of Matt Hasselbeck in terms of how quickly and accurately the ball gets out of his hands and how consistent he is in that regard. It'll be fun to watch him compete throughout the preseason, giving the staff and the fans a glimpse of the potential future at the position. New England has a very stable running back room, in my opinion, with Damian Harris, who led the team in rushing last year with nearly 700 yards. It's a running back by committee type situation for them, where you'll see Sony Michel and James White also thrown in the mix, but none really are considered the guy for the Patriots, and that's perhaps by design. While they do lose the versatile Rex Burkhead, they pick up Ramondre Stevenson in the 4th round of the NFL draft out of Oklahoma. His game reminds me a lot of LeGarrette Blount, and I think the Patriots envision him being utilized in that same role, more of a closer as opposed to being the lead dog. So while the backfield may lack quote-unquote star power, they are a solid group that can benefit from having a healthy Cam Newton at quarterback. This was an area where the Patriots went out to get better in free agency. They signed both Kendrick Bourne from the 49ers and Nelson Aguilar from the Raiders, with the latter coming off of a really good season out there with Las Vegas. The hope is that their ability to create explosive plays will help the passing game be much better than 30th like it was last season. What the Patriots are really hoping for is that former first-round pick N'Keal Harry breaks out and becomes the stud option that they envisioned him being when they took him out of Arizona State 2 years ago. As of now, it's been a combination of both inconsistency and injury for Harry, and you hope that that turns around this season. But he has been outperformed by a fellow classmate in Jacoby Myers, who was an undrafted rookie free agent, and Myers led the team in both receptions and receiving yards last year, showing a knack for working himself open a lot. However, judging by the moves that they made this offseason, it seems as if the Patriots will try a different approach to their passing game this year, and that is by going through the tight end position, which is stacked. We talked about them bringing in two legitimate options in Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry. Both are among some of the best at the position, and they still view 2020 rookies Devin Asiasi and Dalton Keene as future options there. So I think those two guys will improve in year two, but needless to say, if the receivers can't get it done, you can trust that the tight ends will this season for the Patriots. New England boasts one of the better offensive lines in football. This unit is one of the major reasons why the run game was top 5 in the NFL. Shaq Mason and second-year player Michael Onwenu are coming off of fantastic seasons. David Andrews gives them excellent play at center. They even re-signed Ted Karras in free agency, who was the starting center for the Miami Dolphins last year, just strengthening the depth as a whole. Trent Brown was also acquired via trade with Las Vegas, bringing him back to New England, where he spent the 2018 and 19 seasons. The hope is that Isaiah Wynn can stay healthy, something he hasn't been able to do so far in his young career, because when he was playing out there, he was playing really well for them. They have good swing depth in Justin Herron and Corey Cunningham, and I was a big fan of offensive tackle prospect William Sherman, their 6th-round pick out of Colorado. He's got really good athleticism and can play either tackle spot. A normally strong defensive front could not get out of its own way last season. New England finished 26th in run defense last year, giving up 131 yards a game. So the team approached this just like they did the tight end and wide receiver positions. They went out and signed Devin Godshaw, Henry Anderson, Montravius Adams in free agency. They also drafted Christian Barmore out of Alabama in the 2nd round. That's 4 new additions up front on the inside, with the hopes of getting better versus the run. Now on the edges, rookie Ronnie Perkins out of Oklahoma figures to play an integral role in that regard. He was one of the top edge guys in the draft class, and when you add in veterans like Dietrich Wise and Lawrence Guy, you start to feel a lot better about their chances of being better up front this season. Being able to get Donta Hightower back is huge for this defense. He opted out last year and is back ready to go for 2021. They truly missed his presence. You can also say they missed the versatile playmaking ability of Kyle Van Noy last season as well. So re-signing him in free agency was yet another big-time addition. So was Matt Judon from the Baltimore Ravens, who was excellent in Baltimore and is a very strong point of attack player. It's funny to talk about those guys before we even get to who their 2020 sack leader was in Chase Winovich, who should be able to thrive more so this year in a situational role. Second-year players Josh Uche and Anthony Jennings figured to grow more into rotational roles this year, with Uche being in position to push Jawan Bentley or free agent signing, yet another one, and Raekwon McMillan for that starting job opposite of Hightower. And just like the defensive line, the productivity will be significantly better from this revamped group. Cornerback Stephon Gilmore's contract could become a bigger story as we approach the season. Hopefully things get taken care of, as he's one of the best at the position and deserves to get paid like it. He and J.C. Jackson are one of the best duos in the league. You talk about Jackson, who had 9 interceptions last year. That's just outstanding. The club added Jalen Mills in free agency, who can serve in a nickel corner role in addition to playing safety. So I would expect him to compete with Jonathan Jones for that starting role outside of Jackson and also Gilmore. They are really strong at safety, in my opinion, with Adrian Phillips coming off of a solid season and the wily vet Devin McCourty coming off yet another strong output as well. And I'm excited about the potential of Kyle Duggar. He's the future at the position as he enters the second season with the Patriots. He proved to be as good as advertised as a rookie and is in line to see his role increase significantly this upcoming season. A reason for optimism for New England is the fact that they got better defensively within the front seven. So if you're able to get better up front, stopping the run, playing sound defense in that regard and getting it after the quarterback, your team is going to be better as a whole, in conjunction with your offensive line still being stellar. So if you can control the line of scrimmage, you're going to win a lot of football games. They were 7-9 last year, and now they got better on the defensive side, and their offensive line is still outstanding. And they beefed up on the offensive weapons. We've talked about it all throughout this show, how many tight ends they've added, who they've added at wide receiver, bringing back Cam Newton, drafting someone like Mac Jones. The Patriots got better in all facets, offensively and defensively. So yes, there is a lot of optimism in Foxborough this upcoming year. A major cause for concern will be if the quarterback inconsistency rears its ugly head once again this year, whether that's Cam Newton, Mac Jones, Jarrett Stidham. They can't have inconsistency at the most important position. They also need that receiving core to play above average, but if they just play average or below average, which was a lot of what we saw last year, then this offense won't get out of its own way in 2021. And also the run defense has to be better. They were terrible versus the run last year. If they're still ineffective, teams can have their way at the line of scrimmage, and those are some reasons for concern if you're the New England Patriots. Let's take a look at some training camp quick hits, and we'll start with the camp surprises on both sides of the ball. Christian Wilkerson, the wide receiver out of Southeast Missouri State, was with the Titans last year. This is a guy that could surprise in camp because he's big, he's physical, he's explosive, he goes up at the highest point and get the football. He has a chance to make some hay in this receiving group. Devon Gottschall out of Miami was one of the more underrated free agent signings this past offseason. I think this guy is stellar. He's going to help them be better up front. He was just that for the Miami Dolphins, so look for him to be one of those surprises to those that are not familiar with this game this upcoming summer. Taking a look at some rookie impact players offensively, running back Ramondre Stevenson definitely has a role within this offense. He's going to be their closer, their 4-minute offense guy, big back with quick feet. Reminds me a lot of LeGarrette Blount. Defensively, Christian Barmore, arguably the top defensive tackle in the draft class. Some had him high, some had him lower than most, but the consensus was that this is a guy that can not only help you in the run game, but can get quick pressure on the interior. The biggest X factor offensively is Cam Newton. If he can stay healthy and play like he did when he started the season last year, this team can definitely go far. They'll be much better than what we saw in 2020. Defensively, Matt Judon. I think he's probably the most significant free agent signing on the defense side of football. He provides the pressure. He's an excellent point of attack player versus the run. So one player definitely helps them get better within their front seven. In terms of breakout players for the Patriots this year, Michael Onwenu, the offensive lineman up front, to me will become a household name. He was stellar last year as a rookie. Look for him to carry that over into this season and just build upon that. Defensively, Kyle Duggar, we talked about his impact in his debut with the Patriots last year and how well he played. Just imagine him now this year, comfortable in the system, able to play faster than what we saw last year. Both guys, to me, will have breakout 2021 seasons. The road to the Super Bowl for the Patriots goes as follows. The pass game has to become top 15. As much as we love the run game and defense, they have to be able to pass the football at least adequately. Again, they don't have to be the best, but they have to be at least top 15. And that defensive line gets defenses. I'm talking about stopping the run, top 5 in that category. Top 10 in terms of getting to the quarterback. If that defensive line gets defensive, they'll definitely go far. And number 3 kind of ties into number 1. If N'Keal Harry becomes the number 1 bona fide option on the perimeter, this just helps out this offense as a whole. It would actually open things up more for the tight ends because you have to focus on the wide receiver. So if Harry can become number 1, the passing game will become top 15, and that defensive line gets a tee off on opponents, and the Patriots will find themselves back in the playoffs and ultimately back in the Super Bowl. I have the Patriots finishing second in the AFC East. Defensively, I think they'll be much better. They'll be just fine. I'm still having a little bit of reservation about the offense, more in particular the passing game. They were number 4 in running the football, so they'll be able to run the football. They'll be able to play good defense. They'll be in the mix once again for the playoffs. But if the passing game starts to click, again, doesn't have to be top 3, but if they could be much better than what they were last year, this team will get into the playoffs and make some noise. So they're number 2 in the AFC East, but I do feel as though the Patriots are a playoff team in 2021. So that's it for this edition of Football Game Plan's NFL All 32 show. I am Emery Hunt, the czar of the playbook. Be sure to follow me on all of my social media accounts, and don't forget to check out and subscribe to the Football Game Plan Network located at youtube.com/footballgameplan. Also subscribe on iTunes to Football Game Plan Podcast and leave us a 5-star rating.
It's D-U-E, you tell I see you by this point, you're reading my mind. It's time for football. We about to keep this thing moving. I'm about it, you're with it, let's do it. We gon' make this thing official, you heard me? If you're the best, then let's prove it. The goal is set to have a team become a unit, man. We about to keep this thing moving. I'm about it, you're with it, let's do it. We gon' make this thing official, you heard me? If you're the best, then let's prove it. The goal is set to have a team become